The Dungeon Master Experience. This regular column is for dungeon masters who like to build worlds and campaigns as much as I do. Here, I share my experiences as a DM through the lens of Iomandra, my Dungeons & Dragons campaign world. Even though the campaign uses the 4th edition rules, the topics covered here often transcend editions. Hopefully, this series of articles will give you inspiration, ideas, and awesome new ways to menace your players in your home campaigns. If you're interested in learning more about the world of Iomandra, check out the wiki. Dungeon Master for Life, Chris Perkins.
Hello, and welcome to the Familiar Evils YouTube channel. As is tradition, this is your host, Riker. This is just a quick aside. This video, I'm going to be changing one little piece of language because I am not completely comfortable as to whether or not I can say these things on YouTube. So the name of this episode will be She Eats Flumphs. So if you want to know what it actually says, you have to go to the link down below to the Dungeon Master Experience PDF. Thank you. She Eats Flumphs. Monday night. The heroes are mid-Paragon tier and enjoying a love-hate relationship with a guild of tiefling thieves and cutthroats called the Horned Alliance. Over the course of several adventures, they've thwarted a major operation, killed several high-ranking members of the guild, and dealt the guild a severe financial blow. Now they find themselves in the cellar of the Dead Crow, a tavern in Iocalioth that serves as a front for the Horned Alliance, standing across the dinner table from the guild's supreme leader, a grandmotherly tiefling named Dorothea Vadu. What better opportunity to bury the hatchet and let bygones be bygones? The heroes have other fish to fry, and so does the Horned Alliance. Enough blood has been shed, and neither side is eager to escalate the violence. More importantly, the heroes have information that Dorothea desires, and she has information useful to them. Both sides agree to an information exchange. However, before the exchange begins, a servant places a covered platter in front of Dorothea. She rubs her fork and knife together expectantly as the platter lid is removed, revealing a cooked flumph. The Monday night group was horrified. To understand the point of this article, one must first understand the Horned Alliance. This tiefling's only club of miscreants and malefactors operates something like the Mafia. It wants to mind its own business, however criminal, and be left alone. That said, the tieflings in my campaign are a shattered race. Their empire was wiped out by the Dragonborn Empire, and in the Dragovar society, most tieflings are regarded as third-class citizens. Over the course of several levels, the heroes crossed swords with a number of Horned Alliance tieflings. There was Suffer, the brutal tiefling thug, who spoke with a Brooklyn accent. There was Zaidi, Arakosa, the aria singer and wealthy dilettante. There was Zybon Krimvaz, who lived on a ship called the Hellstrike and collected the flayed bones of an adversaries. And there was Prismius, Zybon's crafty tiefling lieutenant with the acid-scarred face. For the supreme leader of the Horned Alliance, I needed someone more memorable than all these other tieflings combined. Someone with the smarts, the temperament, and the prescience to run a widespread organization, yet who also embodied the Horned Alliance's abject hatred towards the Dragovar Empire. Dorothea Vadu is old, wise, and not about to pick a fight with a bunch of people who slay monsters for a living. The Horned Alliance is her house. Its members are her children and grandchildren, metaphorically speaking. She would be likable and admirable, except for one thing: she eats flumphs. This wasn't some randomly assigned fetish. It makes perfect sense in the context of the campaign. One thing the heroes know is that the Horned Alliance detests the ruling Dragovar Empire. So how do I embody this hatred in the guild's leader? The answer is perfect in its awesome evilness. Dorothea Vadu employs thieves to kidnap flumphs and eat them. When the idea came to me, I was walking my dog in the woods. Reggie, my three-legged silky terrier, gave me a quizzical look when I shouted, "She eats flumphs," and immediately sent myself a text message so I wouldn't forget, like I'd forget something that cool. The juxtaposition of the grandmotherly figure with the image of the cooked flumph told the players everything they needed to know about Dorothea Vadu, and at this point, the negotiations were over. The looks on my players' faces said it all. There was no doing business with this woman. She had to die. As a DM, I sometimes make the mistake of relying too much on dialogue, to make my villains compelling. But players are quick to dismiss evil monologues, insults, and hissed invectives. They're just words, after all. What my players remember about Dorothea Badu aren't the words that came out of her mouth, but the flumph that went into it. Actions always speak louder than words. Lessons learned. I'm not suggesting that you add flumph side to your campaign as a means to shock your players. What worked for one villain in my campaign won't necessarily translate to villains in your campaign. The flumph stunt merely illustrates that the heroes need to see the villain do bad things in order to appreciate what they're up against. Simply knowing the bad guy is evil isn't thrilling enough. There's a throwaway line spoken in the film Quantum of Solace to remind us that heroes, in large part, are judged by the strength of their enemies. Well, truth be told, everything I know about creating villains I learned from James Bond novels and films, and my villain's strength is determined by the extent they're remembered long after they're gone. For you, it might be the villain who brands his captives, the villain who betrayed his own to save himself, or the villain who wears a cloak made of stitched faces of his slain enemies. A villain needs only one good gimmick to be even vaguely memorable, be it a deformity, a white cat with a diamond collar, a razor-rimmed hat, or something equally obvious. Villains are defined by their deeds and quirks. It only takes one deed or quirk to make a lasting impression. Next week I will present the winning entries from last week's Best Villain Ever contest, and then we'll leave villains alone for a while to talk about what wonderful things can happen to a campaign when a player leaves the group. Until the next encounter.
I want to thank all of you who have made it to the end of this video. This reading comes from Chris Perkins' Dungeon Magazine series, The Dungeon Master Experience, in which Chris gives excerpts of wisdom and lessons he's learned from many years of running games. If you're interested in reading it for yourself, you can find a link down in the description along with links to where you can find the music used in this video, which is a product of Critical Role's Scanlan Shorthalt Press.